Hey everyone, and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams with my partner in crime, Chris King. We both had a lovely evening. We talked about that in the pre-show. Hope you all did as well. And I had an opportunity to watch these Washington Nationals sweep a doubleheader from the Arizona Diamondbacks. Bases loaded in the ninth inning, but came away with unscathed. But there you go. And there was good basketball on last night. Chris, just like you said, the Clips, the Clippers. I was going to say the Hawks and the the Hawks and Miami had a good game there, with the Heat won by 10 points. Covered it. It's like you said they would.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler put up 45 and pretty much carried that team on his back down the stretch of that game because, let's face it, the Hawks were determined in the first half. They kind of wilted late in the game after they made a run at it. But, it's pretty much what we expected. Atlanta's struggling to get decent shots on a regular basis. And, Trae Young can't do it all by himself.
No.
And that's going to be the issue that they're going to have.
Yeah, and they just don't have the horses, and I think that's going to be a problem. We're going to get to a bunch of other fun stuff here in a few minutes, but one of the other things that I thought was interesting last night was that we're seeing some really competitive hockey now. And, as we get down to that last, thread, it's getting close. I'll tell you what, Tampa Bay does not look good.
No, I was really shocked that they dropped that one yesterday to Detroit.
Detroit Lightning.
Yeah, they looked unmotivated. I guess they're content to maybe be a little bit of an underdog at this point going into the postseason.
Well, they look tired, and they're playing at home. So that part I don't get. But, you and I talked about this. It's hard. One of the reasons it's so hard to repeat in any sport, but specifically in hockey, is because your season lasts from the last week of October, first week of November, all the way to June. And if you happen to be a Stanley Cup, playoff team or a finalist like they been for the past 2 years, it's brutally long, and it just your body can't take all that banging around. It just can't. And so, think of all the extra games they've played over the last 2 years.
Right, but I mean they've gone cold at the wrong time because now,
no question.
They're 4-4-2 in their last 10. Now they have just a 1-point lead over Boston to hold that final guaranteed playoff spot in the Atlantic. And the last thing you want to do is end up playing as a wild card against either the Hurricanes, the Rangers, or the Panthers.
Right.
Of course, this is the dumb part about the way that the playoffs get seeded is, the Maple Leafs have more points than Carolina and the Rangers, who are tied for the Metropolitan lead, but they'll get stuck playing Tampa Bay or Boston. Right.
It's totally nuts, totally out of whack. I'll tell you what's not out of whack, though, and that is our buddies at DraftKings. DraftKings has a promo for March for Max Wagers Network and Winners and Whiners and all the friends at Picks and Parlays. Okay, so what is this deal, you say, Jim? Well, let me tell it to you. Bet $5 to win $200 in free bets. Make your first deposit and bet $5 or more on any Major League Baseball money line, and automatically you get $200 in free bets. Okay, so don't ever say you can't get nothing for nothing. For $5, you get the opportunity to get $200 in free bets on the money line on any MLB game. Okay, all that information is in the show box below, but you have to do this too, and that is you have to use our promo code, which is WAW Video, which is Winners and Whiners Video, and it's in our show box below. So check it out and check out all the fun stuff that's going on at DraftKings. Okay, so thank you, DraftKings, for making the wheels of commerce continue to run here. And so now.
Oh, well, they already have a question about your impending departure from the show. Bill wants to know why you're leaving.
No, I don't. Bill, calm down. My job is basically to run the network. And so to do that, I need to have extra time. And as much as I love being with you guys today, you're not going to get rid of me that way. That soon. I will be back and forth. I'll pop in from time to time to say hello. But, you know, I don't know. Bill's got this grapevine thing because I didn't even make the announcement. So
we talked about it last night on Total Chaos because Steen was talking about how he was going to fill it, and then Allie talked about how she would step in if Scott wasn't around.
Oh well, that's lovely. I greatly appreciate the appreciation. Okay, guys, no problem. Just woke up the pre and post game on Beal. Beal?
Yeah, because Matthew was at the Grizzlies game last night.
Oh, right. So he's in the Memphis area. Well, good on you, Matthew. And Bill, buddy, I appreciate the better opportunity is staying with the network, only running it. Anonymity.
To quote Marv Levy, Bill, where would Jim rather be than right here, right now? And the answer is probably anywhere else, but that's
not true. I would, running the network is going to be a lot more difficult than sitting down and having fun with Chris. So, but look, guys, I'll be around. I greatly appreciate it. I know we're family. I totally get it, and this is really cool. But you know what, guys? I honestly, I'll come by and harass people. So don't worry. Anyway. No, Bill, don't worry. You're good. You're cool. It's no, it's not like, believe me, it's not a state secret. Okay, so it's not that. That's maybe it's just curious. So anyway, here we go, guys. Where are we going? Baseball?
Yep.
Okay, let's see where we go, guys.
Motor City.
Going to the Bronx.
No, Motor City, Jim. It's at Comerica Park.
Or we could go to the Motor City.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody watched the Yankees game yesterday, where we watched Tyler Alexander muff a pop up in the first inning that allowed 2 runs to score. And the sad part was that everybody else was running, and Josh Donaldson basically loafed it out and barely made it to first on the play. But 2 runs scored, and that turned out to be a crucial part of the game as the Yankees ended up picking up the victory. A lot of pitchers used in yesterday's game, though. I mean, we watched Alexander only pitch the first. Then they went to the bullpen. They had a guy throw the ball into the dirt about 3 feet in front of his pitcher's mound. And then he came out. Garrett Cole only went an inning and 2/3. He threw 68 pitches but walked 5. Struck out 3, so it was everybody's Yankees pitcher that, of course, you banked on to win yesterday, Clark Schmidt, getting the win with 3 1/3 scoreless innings of relief and a 4-2 Yankees win. Not a ton of offense there, and that's been a problem for both of these teams this season. You got Luis Severino taking the mound for the Yankees here. He's 1-0 with a 2.25 ERA, a 1.25 WHIP, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts in 8 innings. He's going to face a guy that the Yankees are familiar with, in Eduardo Rodriguez, who's 1 with a 5.87 earned run average, a 1.826 WHIP, 5 walks and 7 strikeouts over 7 2/3. Rodriguez spent his career with Boston before coming over this offseason for a truckload of money to try and front that Boston or the Detroit rotation. Problem is, Detroit's not scoring any runs. I mean, let's look. Both these teams are in the bottom 5 in the league in runs per game. The Yankees are 26th with 3.09. They're 26th on the road, only averaging 2.5. The Tigers 28th in the majors in runs per game with 3, 24th in runs per game at home with 3.29. The Yankees 5-0 in their Severino's last 5 starts as a road favorite of -151 to -200. 11-1 in his last 12 starts overall as a favorite by those numbers. Yankees 8-1 in their last 9 on the road against a left-handed starter. Tigers 0-4 in their last 4 when their opponent allows 2 or less in their previous game. It's just tough to put a ton of faith in the way the Tigers are hitting right now, or not hitting for that matter. And with that in mind, you got to back the Yankees here and hope Severino can go a little deeper than what he's gone in his first 2 starts. He went 3 innings In his first start, he went 5 innings in his second. Maybe he'll go. Yeah, I'm noticing the feedback too. I'm not sure what it is. Are you catching the feedback, Jim, when I'm talking?
When you're talking, yeah. Do you hear me? Am I in feedback? Because I don't hear it.
No, it's mine, and I don't know why.
I don't know, guys.
But now it seems like it stopped.
The tin can and the string might need to be pulled a little further out. We'll see what we can do. We'll get our crack engineering staff on it.
Yeah, it seems like it stopped all of a sudden. I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes when you get like too close to the computer, what happens is you get it's an electronic situation where you'll get static that'll come to the computer and pick up on your microphone.
That could be what it was.
That could be it. So it happens. One thing you talk about Severino, right? And that stat, where is it? The stat that says he's 5-0 in the last 5 starts. Severino is one of those pitchers that, for whatever reason, when he throws, the team scores a lot of runs.
That's true.
And it seems like every team has one, right? Where there's one guy who will pitch. Well, that's DeGrom had that problem for a number of years with the Mets, where he would pitch tremendously, but they get him 1 run, 2 runs. He had to pitch. He had he was on the razor's edge there, because if he didn't keep the ball game close, he was in trouble.
Yeah, look at all the no decisions he got when he would pitch and give up 0 or 1 run in 6 innings, because like you said, the Mets wouldn't score. About a decade, maybe 12, 15 years ago, Randy Wells had that same problem for the Cubs, where he'd go 6 or 7 innings and give up 2 or 3 runs and end up with a no decision because either they wouldn't score any runs or the bullpen would blow it. And you see guys that end up not getting a ton of traction in the majors because of the fact they don't get wins, but you can't get wins if somebody else blows it for you. And that's been a common problem for some of these guys. Hopefully Severino gets some offensive support. The Yankees got to support somebody. They haven't hit for squat so far this season. So maybe they'll turn things around tonight. And it looks like Jim might have frozen there. So, yep, there you go. See, he disappeared. See, you guys all asked about it, and now he left. He vanished into thin air. And, and now he's back. See, it was a magic trick.
It was. You all. I made myself disappear. So maybe I said something that Jacob DeGrom didn't like, and he pulled the plug. You never know. So anywho, so we talked about Severino getting his share of runs. These are 2 teams, though, if you think about it, Chris, that are still trying to find their identity.
True.
You got Mike, you got Judge out there, right? Who's they're trucking, extending him, and he's like, I'm not interested, and so it's one of those kind of things where you wonder, is there, how focused are they at this point? And we'll see. But with Toronto and Tampa Bay and Boston in the division, you can't, lose focus for very long.
Yeah, everybody with Baltimore.
Oh, well, Baltimore's everybody's homecoming team. It's a shame, but it is what it is. All right, moving on from the Motor City, which I thought we were going to be in the Bronx. We got whoops, what happened there?
There we go.
Yeah, okay. The Mariners and the Rangers. Okay. Up in beautiful Seattle. Is there an earthquake going on, Chris?
What's that?
Earthquake going on there?
No, I'm just trying to figure out what's causing it. Cut the feedback cuts in and out. I'm just trying to see if I need to adjust where the computer is or adjust the plug into the USB port or what.
I don't know.
But yeah, the Mariners at T-Mobile Park are facing the Rangers. Texas is struggling. As you see, they're 2-8. They're 1-3 on the road, which is strange. The Rangers are getting offense, but their pitching has been down the toilet so far this year. Seattle 6-5. They're 3-1 at T-Mobile Park. You're going to see Dane Dunning 0-0 with a 5.19 ERA, a 1.731 WHIP, 4 walks and 11 strikeouts in 8 2/3 innings as he makes his 3rd start of the year. Logan Gilbert, 1-0 at 0.90 ERA and 0.80 whip, 1 walk and 11 whiffs over 10 frames for the Mariners. He'll make his third start of the year. Now you look here and you see the Rangers, hey, they're good offensively. They're fourth in runs per game at 5.1. They're fourth in runs on the road, averaging 6.25. But, of course, they scored a bunch of runs against Toronto in the opening series of the season. And that's part of why the numbers are so inflated as far as the road production for Texas. You look at last night's game against the Mariners, and the final score in that one was, 6-2 in favor of the Mariners. Robbie Ray getting the better of John Gray on rhyming starting pitching night at T-Mobile Park. And you look and see that the Rangers mustered all of 6 hits yesterday. That's not going to get it done against a Mariners team that, they play well at home. They jumped all over Gray yesterday. They got 3 in the first and 1 in the second and coasted the rest of the way. Despite only banging out 7 hits, 3 of those 7 were homers, and a 4th hit was a triple. So when you've got better than half your hits going for extra bases, you're in pretty good shape. Looking at the numbers here, the Mariners are in the middle of the road, offensively 4.09 runs a game, but they're second in runs per game at home, averaging 6. They're 5-0 in their last 5 as a home favorite of -110 to -150. 5-0 in Gilbert's last starts as a favorite of -110 to 150. 4-0 in his last 4 starts when their opponent scores 2 runs or less. Texas has dropped 21 of the last 27 meetings between these teams. And when Dunning pitches on the road, it doesn't go well for Texas. They're just 2-11 in his last 13 starts away from Globe Life. Is it Globe Life Field or Globe Life
Field?
Okay, I was going to say, because they had them both. So they're like not coming up with any originality when you got a new sponsor. And they're 0-7 in their last 7 when their opponent scores 5 runs or more in their previous game. Now, Gilbert's not a guy that he's not going to make you think of Randy Johnson or, anybody, Mark Langston or anybody good that for the Mariners before.
I was going to say King Felix.
Yeah, or Felix Hernandez, that's true. But he's good enough to keep Seattle in the game, and Texas's pitching has been brutal. Even if Dunning turns in a decent outing, they'll have to go to the bullpen sooner or later, and Texas's bullpen has been a dumpster fire.
Well, they spent $500 million on hitting. In the offseason. So,
which is why they're hitting, but they're not pitching.
They're not pitching. And Dane Dunning, right? Is that the correct pronunciation of Dane's last name? Is Dunning?
It is now.
It is now. Okay. Doesn't he sound like a character in Major League or one of those movies where pitching Dane Dunning, and you're like, oh, okay. It's like a made up name. It's like there really isn't people named Dane Dunning, is there? Clearly there is.
Yeah, but you look at Texas's staff. Their team ERA right now is 6.24, and their WHIP is 1.534 on the year.
There are little league teams that have better pitching than that.
Yeah, you look at the starting rotation. They have no wins from the starters. Gray is 0-1 now. His ERA is 7. Dunning is 0-0 with his 5.19 earned run average. Martin Perez is 0-2. His ERA is 6.75. Taylor Hearn is 0-1 with a 4.7 ERA. And Spencer Howard has an ERA of 18. He made 1 start and then hit the injured list. So you're looking at all these guys, and you're thinking where their wins have come from. A couple of marquee names. I know everybody knows of John King and Brock Burke. Those are the 2 guys that have wins for the Rangers this season. Those are the earned run averages, and they're just terrible up and down. Matt Bush is at 225 for over 4 innings, but he's 36 years old. Santana's on the IR or the IL. Sabores is on the IL. Matt Moore is still pitching. Remember him?
Yeah, I do. Let me ask you something, Chris. The 2 guys they have with wins, those are the 2 guys. Were they starters or were they just members of the staff? Because we're seeing right now that there's a lot of teams that this week, as we're now at Wednesday, over the weekend and into the early part of the week, that was when some of these pitchers were actually getting to 5 innings. They hadn't even gotten to 5 innings in a lot of cases at that point. So interesting that that the Rangers have a couple of guys who surpassed the 5-inning mark.
No.
Didn't benefit them.
Burke got his win in relief against the against the Blue Jays on April 10th, that game where they were down 6-1 and then came back to win.
Okay.
He pitched 2 innings in relief then. King got his in relief against the Angels last week.
So no starting pitcher on the Rangers has
Correct.
Marked. Okay. That makes sense, I guess. Okay.
It's the Rangers. What can you say?
That's true. What are you going to say? You know what we're going to say? Let's go to the ice. Some key games tonight.
Yeah, take note. There's only 4 games on the schedule tonight because it's apparently boring night for the NHL after yesterday's extravaganza of games.
Well,
and you got our good buddies, the Avalanche, and you got our other good buddies,
the Kraken,
the doormat of the National Hockey League.
Really?
Colorado 55-15-6. They're 24-10-3 on the road. The Kraken 25-44-6. Their home record is abysmal. It's supposed to be Darcy Kemper, 36-10-3, 284 goals against, a 910 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. Don't be surprised if they flip it and go to Pavel Francouz, because we saw against Washington the other night that Colorado was resting guys in an effort to try and stay healthy for the playoffs. It could be Philippe Grubauer, who everybody knows the Avalanche are quite familiar with.
I don't think so. I don't think the Blackhawks are still trying.
It's tough because once they traded away Fleury, the Blackhawks had issues because we got put in net. I mean, I give them credit. They go out there, they play somewhat hard, you know. They find ways to lose games. But, I mean, who doesn't?
True.
It could be Grubauer, could be Dredger. If I was Seattle, I'd go with Dredger because Grubauer has done next to nothing all season. The Avalanche third in goals for, 384, 7th in goals against, 274. Seattle 28th in goals for at 259, 24th in goals against at 3.45. The Avs 49-7 in their last 56 as a favorite of more than 201 or greater. 55-12 in their last 67 against teams with a losing record. Kraken, they don't do well as the big underdog. 0-7 in the last 7 as an underdog, at least plus 201. 0-5 in their last 5 against teams with a winning percentage of 600. 0-4 in their last 4 after giving up 2 or less in their previous game. It's going to be a tough night for the Kraken, even if Colorado rests some guys or, you know, doesn't go at full speed. They still have enough weapons to beat Seattle. You look at the first couple of meetings this season between these teams, and we're just taking a quick look here. Scores were 7-3 on November 19th in Seattle, 4-3 at the Ball Arena on January 10th. So either way,
I was just
either way, Colorado's got too many weapons for Seattle.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is one of those games where Colorado has nothing to play for. But if you're on Seattle and, you know, with the record they have, you're playing for your job, possibly.
True.
So, I don't know. I'm not saying that means that Seattle's going to win. I just mean that there's an urgency from Seattle, not necessarily from a standpoint because they're not going to the playoffs. But they certainly, you know, there's going to be somebody looking at that, you know, at the tape afterwards and say, okay, which one of these guys are we going to keep and where are we going to go with some of these other guys? So.
And, I mean, hey, they've won 2 in a row.
Well, yeah, there's that. And what's the saying that you use all the time, Chris? 2 in a row is called a streak? Is that what
it's called a winning streak.
That's called a winning streak, right? Well, Colorado knows about winning streaks. Seattle, we'll see tonight, but looks like the Avalanche is going to come down on the Kraken. All right, out we go from Colorado and Seattle to, next up, the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars. And
Stars coming to you from Alberta, because the great part for the Stars is they play Edmonton tonight. Guess where they end up tomorrow? They're going to be in Cowtown to face the Flames.
I thought you were going to say they can fly to Sunrise, a 3,400-mile trip.
And of course, my page didn't update there when I saved it, so those records are not correct. Dallas is 43, 28, and 5. Edmonton is 46, 26, and 6. I don't know why it didn't update when I punched it in, but it's probably because the first time I went to load it, it said that if there was a problem with the file, so it loaded the old file.
Well, the Stars are happy that you gave them some extra wins. I mean,
yeah, they probably could use them.
They could. There's no
the Stars 19, 18, and 2 on the road. Edmonton 24, 12, and 1 on home ice this season. It's supposed to be Jake Ottinger 27, 14, and 1 with a 256 goals against, a 913 save percentage, and 1 shutout. Starting for Dallas against Mike Smith, 13, 9, and 2 with a 291 goals against, a 911 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. For the Oilers, Dallas is 20th in goals for at 286. They're 15th in goals against at 296. The Oilers 7th in goals for at 3.42. They're 19th in goals against at 3.08. Edmonton 6-0 in their last 6 when their opponent scores 2 or less in their last game. 4-0 when their opponent gives up at least 5 in their last game. Edmonton 10-1 in their last 11 at home. 11-1 in their last 12 as a home favorite. The Stars 1-7 in their last 8 as a road underdog of 110 to 150, and 1-4 in their last 5 as an underdog overall, of an underdog of plus 110 to plus 150. The Oilers, they're trying to hold on to a spot in the Pacific Division and is staying out of that mess that is the wild card race. They come into tonight sitting second in the division with 94 points. The Kings have 92. Vegas and Vancouver both have 87. So Edmonton needs this win. Dallas, of course, sitting. I believe they still hold the second wild card with 91 points.
Mm-hmm.
4 points ahead of Vegas with a game in hand. They're 4 points ahead of Vancouver with a game in hand. Both teams need this game, but Edmonton's playing at home, and they play better hockey there. Dallas has been outscored on the season, 227, 221. I just think Edmonton will get the win here.
You left out one of the most important stats, Chris, and I'm just going to have to fact check you on it. That Edmonton won the Great Canadian Poutine Championship in their building. So
I was unaware of that.
Of all of the buildings in Canada, if you want good poutine, go to Edmonton because they won the trophy. So there you go.
A fine trophy it is.
But no. Sorry, what?
That a fine trophy it is.
Yes, a fine trophy. It's outstanding. It's edible. Nothing like getting an edible trophy. But you know what's almost as good as an edible trophy? A deal from Caesars. That's right. We got Caesars Sportsbook. $1,100 first bet insurance. Okay. Place a first-time wager of up to $1,100 and get it back in the form of a free bet if you lose. So you can't lose, right? And as Allie said the other day, you might be able to win twice. Things like that happen. So look, check out Caesars Sportsbook for all this fun stuff. As we said, $1,100 first bet insurance. Place a first-time wager of up to $1,100, and if you lose, they will spot you back. Okay, but you have to use our promo code, which flew by there. It'll come back in a second. Oh, there it is. All right. It's in the show box below, down there. So by all means, check it out. All kinds of fun stuff down there. And thanks to our friends at Caesars for helping, as we said before, the wheels of commerce turn. Remember, in some of these states, you have to be 21 years of age to play, and always, always bet responsibly. Okay? Okay. So tonight, Christopher, after watching the Heat win their game and Memphis choked out the Phoenix Suns, and probably the only game they will win in that.
New Orleans choked out Phoenix.
Yeah, it was New Orleans, right? Memphis plays tonight. Sorry.
No, Memphis blew up Minnesota yesterday.
Somebody played more Minnesota, Memphis. I'll get that straight. Sorry, boys. My bad. Anyway.
The concern for Phoenix now is, will Devin Booker play in Game 3? Because, he left that game with a hamstring issue yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Do you think the Suns can rest him and still win?
And they've got a lot of talent. It's just a matter of, I think that threw them off their game because he had 31 points in the first half yesterday.
Right.
If you know he's not going to play in Game 3, you can adjust accordingly. Maybe Cam Johnson gets more playing time or whatever. You can probably get away with it for a game. I don't know if I would go any further than that because the last thing you want to do is go to New Orleans, lose Game 3, lose Game 4 because you don't play Booker and then have to win 3 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And like Sly said, a lot of injuries in that game yesterday. I don't know what it was. It must have been something in the water over there in Cactus Land. But
they thought they were playing hockey.
Yeah, it was a rough night for the Suns. I was surprised the way things panned out, but like we say all the time, that's why they play the games.
Right. Okay, let's go to the hardwood and see what we got here.
I'm going to go with the 76ers over the Raptors. We go to the Scotiabank Arena for Game 3 tonight.
On TNT.
Is it on TNT? I figured it probably was.
The 3 games are on this game. The 2 early games, Philadelphia and Toronto, is on TNT. The other early game is on the NBA and on NBA TV, and then TNT takes the nightcap.
Gotcha.
So there you go.
You know, we saw Philadelphia take the first 2 games in this series at home. Now we're going to switch venues. Of course, Matisse Thybulle will not play for Philadelphia in these 2 games. He can't make the trip even because you can't go into Canada without being vaccinated. Mm-hmm. So that'll be a factor for the 76ers. But he didn't really play a whole lot in the first 2 games of the series. Meanwhile, you look at the injury report on the other side. Gary Trent is probable now after an illness. We thought he wasn't going to play in Game 2. He did. I guess if you consider scoring no points and picking up 4 fouls in 10 minutes as playing, then sure, he was great. Scotty Barnes is listed as doubtful. I know he did go through the shoot-around this morning without his walking boot. Let's face it, Toronto needs him because they need to get some more scoring to contribute offensively. We've seen the way the 76ers attack with Embiid and Tobias Harris. And Tyrese Maxey's had a big series so far. I just think that the Raptors, you know, I know everybody's talking about, hey, they're going to be at home. It's the first time in a couple of years that for the postseason where they've had a crowd. Because, you know, 2020 when the playoffs went on, or we had the bubble, and then, you know, last year they spent most of their time in Miami because you couldn't get teams over the border. So people are saying, hey, you know, the crowd factor might be a thing. Sure, could be, but until I see Toronto actually put together a cohesive 48 minutes on both ends of the floor, I'm fading them here. Philadelphia 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 conference quarterfinal games. Toronto 1-5 in their last 6 games against teams with a winning percentage of 600. They're 0-4 in their last 4 overall. They're 0-5 in their last 5 at home after being on the road for 7 days or more. Barnes might try to give it a go, but remember, the last guy we saw try to do that with any success was Willis Reed 50 years ago in the finals. And he scored 4 points and then left. I just don't have faith in Toronto at this point. I thought that they would have been able to give Philadelphia a challenge in the first 2 games, and they didn't. I think Philadelphia's line is pretty thin. So I'll give the 1.5 and back Philadelphia here to take a 3-0 lead in the series.
Okay, let's move from above the border to the next game, the Celtics and the Nets. Bill, this is the one you were looking for, buddy. Here it comes, Celtics and Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Nets came back and made a game of it the other day and had a chance to win. Here's the thing. They played bad basketball for the better part of 3 quarters before they got things going in the 4th. And then when they had the lead, they couldn't hold it. You know, how do you give up a driving layup to Jason Tatum, who hadn't scored in like 9.5 minutes at the buzzer? Kyrie Irving had more fun flipping off the crowd than he did, you know, making key plays when it mattered. I know Durant is great. I'm not going to take anything away from what Durant can do on the floor. Um, I know Irving had 39 in game one, but beyond Durant and Irving, who do you rely on as a third scorer? Do you count on Bruce Brown? Do you count on Goran Dragic? Seth Curry only took 7 shots in 30 minutes. I know Scott Reichel was pointing out about how Boston had a little bit of a struggle when they went to Nick Claxton instead of Andre Drummond in the middle for the Nets.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing: you can adjust for Claxton. He's about 6'10" and weighs about 150 pounds when you look at him.
Right.
You can move a guy like that around. You can bully him. I mean, I know not having the Time Lord is a problem for Boston in the middle, but this is a team that in the Nets that made Al Horford look good in game one. Horford had 20 points and 15 rebounds in 41 minutes. He doubled what his stats were in the regular season. He averaged 10.2 points and 7.7 boards in the regular season. He's a 35-year-old guy, and you made him look like, Dennis Rodman in his prime on the glass and a valuable secondary scoring option. We saw the Celtics have 4 guys that scored 20 points in that game because of that.
Well, Fredo, we just got to it just a minute ago, buddy, and we got Philadelphia over the Great White North.
Yeah, as much as I hate to say it, because I'm not a big Philadelphia fan, but I just think that Toronto losing Barnes and then having Trent do nothing in game 2 showed that they don't have the depth. And like Bill said, Doc Rivers and the 76ers have kind of neutralized the strengths of what Toronto brings to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, Bill. It should be a good game. I don't think Durant. It's not like Durant didn't come to play in game 1. He just didn't make a lot of shots. He was 9 of 24, turned it over 6 times, and that's a problem for the Nets. They have to worry about taking care of the ball a little better. They turned it over 16 times in that game, and that's partially why they lost. I mean, they shot 53%, almost 54% from the floor, but I mean, 16 turnovers, and you get beat on the glass 43-29. Those are some concerning numbers. And you have to wonder, how deep will Jason Kidd – no, wait. Who is the Nets coach now? Oh, Steve Nash. That's right.
Right.
I knew it was a point guard.
It was one point guard. Just can't remember which one.
I knew it was a point guard that played for Phoenix at some point,
right.
And the Mavs. But yeah, how far is Steve Nash going to go into the bench? Because if you look in game 1, you didn't play Blake Griffin at all. You didn't play Aldridge at all. You think that Nash might realize that, hey, we can't get killed on the glass, and we need to have a guy that might be able to get some rebounds? Or is he going to ride the same basically 8 guys that he rode in game 1? Because I don't count Kyler Edwards playing 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Or Kessler Edwards, I'm sorry. There's so many guys named because there's Kessler Edwards, there's Kyler Edwards, there's another Edwards. I can't remember what his name is. He played at Pepperdine too. But the bottom line is, can they rebound? Can they hold on to the ball? Those are my concerns with Brooklyn.
Well,
we know Boston led the league in scoring defense and field goal percentage defense and 3-point defense in the regular season. Can the Nets stay out of their own way?
Kevin Riley has a question for you, Chris. Here it is.
Yeah, I always have a lot of selections. That's the point. That's the fun part of the show. Losing by hooks and a point, sometimes that's why you always have, like Lex will tell you when he's here. I haven't seen him yet today, but he'll tell you that's why some people stick to the money line and not the spread, because why run the risk of shooting yourself in the foot? But we've got our top options coming up here momentarily.
Right. And the thing too, Chris, and you always point this out, that sometimes, you give people the option. You say, here's what is from points, here's what the money line is. In some cases, at basketball, in hockey, it's a puck line. In baseball, it's a run line. I mean, there's many different ways to do it. If you're committed to a team and you think that team's going to win, then why take a chance on the margin, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know that sometimes the ROI is a little worse because sometimes a team will be a favorite at minus 170, and you're like, but
Right.
the puck line or the run line or whatever else it is, point spread, whatever, is plus 130. But here's like they always say, like Mark Cuban says on Shark Tank, would you rather have 70% of 100, or would you rather have 100% of nothing?
Mm-hmm.
And that's sometimes you have to weigh that out. Are you confident enough in the team that you're picking to cover whatever that line is, either as the underdog, where you're basically paying the juice because most underdogs are going to be minus whatever on the line because of the fact that you're getting something out of it, or are you content to take a little bit of a chunk out of what you might get back to take the safer play? And it's a matter of preference, really.
Yeah, I mean it's basically a situation of risk investment, right? Like you're a day trader in stocks.
Right.
You take we are your risk analysis. Okay, we show you what the risk is. It's up to you then to decide: do you take the risk or don't you take the risk? Hence the term gambling. So there you go. Chris, let's talk a little bit for a second about your parlays. We're talking about it here on the show, but if you want Chris's parlays, you can go down to our show box below and get them sent to your email box every day. So if you're a fan of Chris's, like we all are, go down in the show box. Check out, of course, like we said before, DraftKings, Caesars Sportsbook. We're giving away a fantastic baseball book, so you want that. It's free. Just fill it out, click on the link, fill it out. They'll send it to you. And you can get Chris's picks all along the way. So let's go from there. Sly has a little comment here, and that is, the 170s are great. It's the front. It's 700s. I can't add a lot.
Yeah, I can understand that too, Sly. Unfortunately, sometimes when you run those in with some of the other ones, it doesn't turn out to be too bad. But I get that completely. I try to avoid some of those. I mean, sometimes you don't have a choice because there's so few games to choose from as far as options go. And I know Allie will tell you that, chasing underdogs or whatever, or minus 150 or less is the way to go. But sometimes those don't pan out either.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's the fun part about it. You go within the system that works for you.
Right. And sometimes it's better just to watch Netflix.
Yeah, or,
right.
Whatever else is on TV.
Right. Just go check something and take the night off, because if the numbers make you ill, not good. Don't go there.
I mean, the fun part was, Toronto was minus 470 last night on the money line, but if you bet the puck line all the way down to, at 1.5, I think it was minus 170 or whatever, and if you went minus 2.5, then it was like plus 105. But nobody wants. People are always scared to bet, 2.5 on the puck line. But if you did, it would have panned out because Toronto won 5-2. But yeah, seeing some of those numbers can get really scary.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's a risk assessment, right? So we give you the information, and you guys decide whether it's worth the risk. Sometimes I can assure you, as Chris does say many times, it's not. So, but we give you the information. And speaking of that, let's go for 2 for the money.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about the 76ers, and Jim took it back down.
Let's
See
get
that?
rid of
He's trying to hide it from you.
Right, yeah. It's so good. I don't want you to have it. No, I'm sorry.
But yeah, I like the 76ers over the Raps, like we said. It's just tough for Toronto right now.
Yes, John, but you know what? He can handle the pressure. Don't you? There you go, Chris. Thanks, John.
Yeah, the 76ers, the Raptors are just a team. They're kind of in disarray right now. It's hard to play when you're minus 2 of your starters, or they're limited. Like we saw, Trent barely played the other day. Barnes is hobbling around in a walking boot. We'll see if he takes the floor tonight. Like I said, last I heard, he took part in the shoot around this morning. he might try to gut it out. I don't know how successful he'll be if he does. He's still listed as doubtful as of an hour ago. So, I mean, you have to wonder.
If they play him, they'll have to manage his minutes.
Yeah, it says Nick Nurse told reporters Barnes is recovering well. When asked if there was any chance he could play, he said, quote, and this is one of your classic answers, quote, maybe. So
is Bill Belichick coaching there now?
Maybe he went to the Bill Belichick school of press conference.
Answer right.
At least he didn't pull a Marshawn Lynch and say, I'm just here so I don't get fined."
Right.
So
and then he got fined. Yeah.
But I still think Philadelphia, even without Thibault, he didn't play a whole lot. 29 minutes, I think, in the first two games. So as good of a perimeter defender as he is, he wasn't really a factor in those first two games. So I don't think they're going to miss him as much as, say, if Harden or Embiid or somebody like that wasn't going to play. Then you'd have more of an issue. I like the Blue Jays over the Red Sox. I looked at the pitching matchup. If you don't like high ERAs early in the season, don't look at it because you'll become violently ill. In case you were wondering who's pitching, I will tell you. You've got Jose Boo Berrios, who has no record, but he does have a lovely – where'd it go here? Where are they? There it is. A lovely 1181 earned run average after two starts. And he'll be opposed by Nick Pivetta, who's 0-2 with a 939 earned run average in his two starts. So could be potential for some fireworks at Fenway tonight. I just think the Blue Jays with a better lineup. And you have to think Berrios can bounce back sooner or later. I think he's a better pitcher than Pivetta. I'm going to go with Toronto.
Hey, one quick thing before we move on. I just want to say, for those of you out there who may have seen him on TV before or may have, heard him on the radio, Buck Martinez. Buck's a great guy, a friend, and he's stepping away from broadcasting the Blue Jays games to work on his he has cancer and he needs to begin some chemotherapy treatments. We wish him all the best. Buck's a fantastic guy, great broadcaster, and even a better person. So he, this week, stepped away from doing Blue Jays games up there on Sportsnet. And he's a truly nice man, and we hope that all goes well for Buck. So there you go. Back to the Yankees and Tigers.
I remember when Buck Martinez used to do games on CTV when I lived up in New York because you get all the Canadian channels.
Yeah.
And of course, if we're going to talk about that, let's talk about let's also give our support to everybody's favorite PTPer himself over at the network, Dick Vitale. He's now cancer-free after his rounds of chemo. So we'll be back, doing dipsy-doo dunkaroos and everything else. Hoping that nobody talk about how guys might get the ziggy if their team doesn't turn things around.
Yep.
But, good to hear that Dick Vitale's on the road to recovery.
Yeah, and hopefully the same we'll be saying the same thing in 5 or 6 months for
Buck Martinez.
Yeah. Dickie V, the man who could do 20 minutes great line from Bob Lee at ESPN, who said one time that Dick Vitale can do 20 minutes when he opens the refrigerator and sees the light come on. There's nobody, I'll tell you what, nobody loves being Dickie V more than Dickie V. So there you go.
Yeah, I think the only guy that that can do something similar to that, going back into the annals of professional wrestling, is Jim Cornette.
Oh, yeah.
Who I watched a shoot interview with him once. The guy asked him 3 questions, and Cornette went on for 8.5 hours.
Like a telethon, yeah.
Yeah, basically. Cornette always had funny stories, and he still does. It's not like he vanished, but it's fun to see him. I don't know if you've seen any of the Dark Side of the Ring series they have on TV, Jim.
Yeah, it's fun.
Cornette, a good guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin wants to know, Chris, do you like In the NBA, do you like Toronto in the first quarter and Milwaukee in the first
Well, I
quarter?
like Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee's probably going to pound Chicago into oblivion. We talked about how the Bulls have struggled against the elites of the Eastern Conference. To that point, this season they're 1-14 against the top 4 teams in the East. Not much of a track record if you're hoping that Chicago is going to suddenly turn things around. Toronto, they could cover in the first at half a point or whatever because they're going to be motivated. They're going to try to avoid. They know they're staring a 3-0 hole in the face if they lose this game, so they'll probably start off strong. As far as betting on it, it's tough to say with Toronto because they could start hot and then go ice cold, and you have to wonder if they'll be able to contain Philadelphia. They haven't done it in the first 2 games of this series, so I would be a little leery. I definitely like the Bucks in the first quarter, and for the game for that matter. I know that they only scored 93 points the other night in the 7-point win over the Bulls, but I expect a better showing from Milwaukee because, as we've talked about before, like Mike Tyson always says, everybody's got a game plan until they get punched in the face. That's going to be, I think Milwaukee got punched in the face a little bit in game 1, and now they're going to come back with a vengeance.
Yeah, one of those things where you're in the playoffs, and I think sometimes you, like Milwaukee, when you've been to the playoffs, you're sitting there going, okay, well, here we are, and the first game's played, and then all of a sudden it kicks in, oh, yeah, we're in the playoffs. So
and I think that's basically what happened is they got complacent. They're like, yeah, we won the title last year, so now we're just, starting our second coronation tour.
Yeah, take a deep breath. Here we go.
And then, they let Chicago hang around, and they bricked a bunch of shots. Antetokounmpo didn't look great. And the rest of the Bucks, I think, forgot to show up. But I don't think that'll happen tonight. I think Budenholzer will have them ready for this one.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, are we going to – we should go to 4 for the show then.
Yeah, like we talked about Seattle and the Rangers, I'm going to take the Mariners. I just think Texas, we said their pitching is brutal. Their bullpen is atrocious. And Dunning's not going deep into games. Seattle took the game 1 convincingly. I think they'll prevail in this one. I like the Celtics over the Nets. I think that when this series switches to Brooklyn, we'll see the Nets take advantage of home court and probably even things up. I just think Boston's a little bit better. I have to see more from the Nets as a whole than what we saw for long game 1 before I can back them with any sort of support. I talked about the Bucks and the Bulls just a minute ago. I'm not going to deviate from that. I think Milwaukee should win this one convincingly. I'll be a little disappointed if they don't because it'll show that either A, they're complacent, or B, they're not as to paraphrase Dennis Green, the Bucks won't be who we thought they were.
Right.
And then the Avalanche over the Kraken. Let's face it, the Avs are cruising towards the President's Trophy, or battling for it anyway with Florida. The Kraken are battling for ping pong balls. I think Colorado should prevail there.
There you go. All right, time for the big show, or the menu, or the shot in the dark, or whatever you want to call it, or as Chris likes to say, the space for those ridiculously overloaded boxcar parlays that have been big rewards if you don't go right, but a lot of moving parts here.
That's true.
Right. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get used to hearing the name Guardians.
Me too. I always type Indians and then have to correct it.
It's somebody said to me the other day, "What do you think the Guardians are going to do this year?" I'm thinking, "What the hell are you talking about?"
You're like, are we talking about roller derby?
I was thinking of beer league softball. It's like I have no idea. They said, "You don't know anything about Cleveland?" I go, "Oh, them. Yeah, that's right. Okay."
I mean, they were rained out Monday. They were rained out yesterday. So they have a split doubleheader set for July, and they have a doubleheader today. I was going to put Cleveland for game 1, but the game started right when the show started, so I didn't want to put it up in there. In case you're wondering, on game 1 of that game matchup, which we saw, it was scheduled to be, I believe, Shane Bieber and Dallas Keuchel. Well, if you back Dallas Keuchel, I feel bad for you because they're in a big hole already. They're in the top of the bottom of the second at Progressive Field. The Cleveland Guardians holding a narrow 10-0 lead. They've scored 9 times in the second. There's apparently still nobody out. Keuchel's still been in there. Here's how the second inning has gone for the Indians. Guy reached on an error. Single to load the bases. There's an RBI single. Another RBI single. Then a grand slam by Jose Ramirez.
Oh, man.
Then a single. Then a wild pitch. Then an infield single. Then the ever-popular official scorer ruling pending that played it a run. I'm guessing that was either a wild pitch or a pass ball.
Yeah.
Then another error. That scored a run. Then there's a base hit. So, yeah, Keuchel has retired no one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 batters have come to the plate here in the second. He's retired nobody, and Tony La Russa still has him on the mound.
It must be punishment.
Keuchel's line. Oh no, they just took Keuchel out. He's now he lasted 1 inning plus, 10 runs, 8 earned, 9 hits, a walk, a wild pitch. He gave up the grand slam. He threw 48 pitches, and is out of there, trailing 10-0 with nobody out in the second. Shane Bieber.
He's pitched an inning, and how many outs are in the inning? Second
0.
There's nobody out in the second, so he's pitched an inning.
Yep.
So that ERA is going to be in the 80s.
Well, it'd be 72 for this start because only 8 of the 10 runs were earned.
Oh, okay.
But his ERA for the season is now 16.5.
Yes. There you go.
Shane Bieber looks like he's going to stroll to a victory.
Yeah.
You know, he's fan 2. He's only thrown 18 pitches in 2 frames. The White Sox with 4 errors so far.
No, 4 errors in 2 innings. Okay. Giving the Guardians extra outs.
I'm going to take them in the second game as well. Tristan McKenzie pitching for the Guardians against Jimmy Lambert, who made his debut the other day and got beat by Tampa Bay. I'm going to go with the A's over the Orioles. We talked about this. If you're looking for an under machine, go no further than the Baltimore Orioles. The under is 10-0-1 in Baltimore's games this season. Dalton Jeffries going against Jordan Lyles in that one. Oakland has won both games in the series. They've only given up 1 run in each of the 2 games. Look for them to get the win. I'm going to ride the Nationals over the Diamondbacks. Eric Fetty pitching against Merrill Kelly. We saw Washington, like Jim said, sweep a doubleheader yesterday, winning 6-1 and 1-0.
I saw something in that game, Chris, that I've never seen happen before. And that was there was a bunt laid down, and on the National side by Victor Robles. Robles is running to first. He's like a step away from first base. The pitcher fields the ball, fires the ball, hits the back of his helmet. The helmet bounces off his head and smacks the first baseman in the mouth. And they had to send the trainer out because the first baseman had a bloody lip. Not from the ball, from the helmet that the pitcher knocked off of the guy's head.
As the late Kurt Gowdy would say, only in baseball.
That's true. So, well, Rocky Mountain High now. Going to see the Phillies and the Rockies play.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Phillies. I mean, they've got to turn things around sooner or later, you would hope. Zach Eflin going against Herman Marquez. The Phillies started 2-0. Those were the good old days, right? Since then, they've gone a miserable 2-8. They led yesterday, ended up losing 6-5 in the battle of the Kyles on the mound. Kyle Freeland and Kyle Gibson neither factoring into the decision. There's Sir Anthony Dominguez blowing the win. He took the loss. Uris Familia blew a save for the Phillies. So just like last year, Freeland didn't factor in the decision. The winning pitcher, Justin Don't Call Me Joey Lawrence. Whoa! got the win in relief for the Rockies. He's now 1-0. I'd like to think Eflin can outduel Marquez on the mound in that one.
I'll tell you what, the Philly broadcast crew with John Kruk on it. John Kruk might be one of the most hilarious analysts in baseball next to Bob Uecker. He is, when the Phillies, come into the ninth inning, they're up by 1 or 2 runs. The first thing he says is, "Okay, everybody, we're going to break," and he says, "Get those seatbelts out because it's going to be a bumpy ride." The bullpen.
Well, you got right. He played when Mitch Williams was their closer. So right. I mean, of course he'd think that because look at what Mitch Williams used to do.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I was just saying they're entertaining. But they
Which is good because you get so many announcers now that are, they're kind of bland.
Too clinical.
Yeah, I mean, give me the announcers like Harlan or Kenny Albert or Gus Johnson.
Right.
I mean, granted, Johnson has turned up to 11 all the time, to the point where a 3-yard run can be, wow, did you see him break 6 tackles and pick up 2 yards? I'd rather have that than some of these guys, not to mention any names, Kevin Cooler, that, are just so bland. It's like watching paint dry.
Yeah. It's okay to get excited, although I will say this, I do have one pet peeve, and that is some of these cocky announcers and their call on goals is just over the top. Mainly the radio guys, but some of the TV guys too.
I mean, I grew up listening to guys like Rick Jeanneret, who's retiring this season after spending the last half century with the Sabres, doing ones like Top Shelf where Mama hides the cookies and La 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 Fontaine and then you got Joe Bowen doing Maple Leafs hockey with Jim Ralph and guys like that. I don't mind guys like that because at least they have a personality.
That's fun. I don't. But that's like John Sterling with the Yankees. I don't mind.
Yeah, exactly. Or like going back, talk about Kenny's dad, Marv Albert, of course. With the czar of the telestrator, Mike Fratello.
Right.
Or Steve Snapper Jones.
Yeah.
But a lot of these commentators, it's like they were taught to act like to be as milk toast as possible, and I think it detracts from the experience for some of these people that don't necessarily watch sports, because if the announcers aren't excited, how are they supposed to get excited about the game itself?
Right. I mean, there's always that thing about people saying, well, they sound like homers. Well, it's like, excuse me. I wanted an announcer, and this is when I used to hire announcers. I wanted an announcer who is as mad when we lose as we are, and as happy as we are when we win. And, it's okay. I'm not asking you to shill for the team, but I am saying at least when we do something right, for heaven's sake, please let everybody know.
Yeah, you should have hired me.
There you go. Bulls and the Bucks.
I'll make it simple. I look for all 3 of these games to end up over their totals. I mean, Milwaukee's not going to struggle along offensively like they did. Chicago has been a sieve defensively in the second half. Brooklyn, Boston, we saw go over the total in game 1. If Durant and company step up, like Bill was saying a few minutes ago, I see no reason why this one wouldn't end up over. And if Toronto wants to get a game in this series and have a chance to go back to Philadelphia, they're going to have to be better offensively, which will push that over the number. Then on the ice, we got some real unexciting stuff. You got the Coyotes and Blackhawks in a battle of doormats. Kevin Lankinen's supposed to start for Chicago. Karel Vejmelka starting for the Coyotes. I'm going to give Arizona the edge at home, which means they'll lose 7-1. I look for Vegas to beat Washington because, like we said, Washington doesn't necessarily need this one. They're already in the playoffs. Granted, they'd like to get out of playing a wild card spot if they can. They stand currently 1 point behind Pittsburgh with a game in hand. Vegas needs this win. Of course, we said that the other day, and they lost to New Jersey.
Well, the only thing we can hope is that Allie doesn't watch the game, because if
She
she
said
does,
she didn't watch it, but now she's blaming it on. She said something about blaming it on the hat or something because she didn't wear the hat yesterday or the other day or something. I can't remember what it
okay,
was.
all of
But
these idiosyncrasies, please blame Allie if you're a Knights fan and they don't win.
yeah, and then I look for that to stay under 6.5. I think this is going to be a more defensive game than people anticipate. The first meeting this year was 1-0 at the Capital One Arena. I think you'll see more than one goal, but I don't think you're going to see 7. Look for that to fall short.
Yep. Hey, look, guys, we're talking about the Max Wagers Network, and starts off with our buddy Sean Higgs, noon with Midday Money, then Morning Wood with Allie Burns. Then it's just Parlays with Chris, myself, and soon to be a Scott to be named later. And speaking of Scott, back to the window with Scott and Scott, 3 to 4 p.m. Starting Monday, if you are a soccer fan, get ready for the amazing Sean Miller. He will be sliding into that 4 to 5 slot, which doesn't exist right now. And Game Time Decisions with Nick, Tim, and Lenny closes out 6 glorious hours of all kinds of fun stuff going on right here at the Max Wagers Network. Any final questions from the class before we move on? Because Scott and Scott is waiting in the wings for you guys. So what do you think? Anything? You see anything, Chris, there? Any questions?
I just said the same thing you said before. And I know you don't want to repeat yourself. And I said when we do the 2 and the 4 and stuff, those are the ones that I would put up myself. And yesterday we had both of our 2 teamers come up that were on the show. Both ended up on the positive side of the ledger. So that's where I would go if I was making any wagers on this particular evening. Would be those ones. I mean, but basically anything from the 2 and the 4 are the strongest ones that I put up on the board. So you could take any of those 2 that you're most comfortable with.
Right, and that's the same thing for the menu that we like to call, right? I mean, all the information's there, and like I said before, it's like risk analysis. We give it to you. We tell you what we think, and then you guys make the choice. And that way, you're not. If we just gave you 2 teams and said these are the 2 teams, the 2 games that you should put together in parlay, that wouldn't be much fun. This is giving you options. Options are good. So,
and like Marlo said, he's dealt with Bob Prince, Mike Lang, and Myron Cope, so he's been blessed as far as announcers go.
Bob Prince, what a man! Good God, what a wonderful, wonderful man. Bob got fired, Chris. He got fired. He was doing a Pirates game, and they were against the Cubs, as a matter of fact. Now, this is back in the day. We're talking about the 70s. And Bob, the broadcast was on KDK Pittsburgh, which is owned by Westinghouse. And there was a Westinghouse executive who was from Chicago who was in the booth watching the game from the booth behind Bob. And every time the Cubs did something right, he cheered. So they go to break. Bob tells him, he says, look, you can be a Cubs fan. I have no problem with that. He goes, however, we're doing Pirates radio, and every time you cheer, I can hear it. And if I can hear it, that means the crowd, my audience can hear it. They don't want to hear cheering every time the Cubs do something good. And so he says, do you understand that? Please don't do that. He goes, because you're in my, this is like my office, okay? I wouldn't go into your office and cheer for the Pirates. So he says, okay. And he says, so the guy did it again. And Bob looks back at him and puts his hand over the microphone and says, did you not hear what I just did? He says, next time, I swear to God, I'm going to punch you in the mouth. Third time was not a charm for the guy. Bob dropped him. Okay, bad habit. He hit the vice president of Westinghouse Broadcasting, knocked him down. They took Bob off the air. There was approximately 5,000 phone calls in the course of a 24 to 48 hour period of people calling KDKA saying, we want Bob back. Eventually they brought him back, but it was never for a long period of time, and I had the pleasure of working on the first Cracker Jack All-Star game. I'll show you the letter tomorrow that Bob sent on that. Bob was just I almost said Bob was a prince of a man. Myron Cope, hilarious personality. He's the guy who came up with the terrible towel idea. That was Bob. That was not Bob. It was Myron. And who was the third one? Mike Kelly.
Well, he said Mike Lang.
Mike Lang, that was right, Mike Lang. Mike Lang's the guy who, whenever the Pens are about to win, says Elvis has left the building. So Pittsburgh has had some really good hometown announcers. There's no question about that.
And, Philadelphia did too with Harry Callis,
Yeah, Philadelphia. Merrill Reese, Merrill Reese with the Eagles and Harry Callis.
Artie Harwell with the Detroit Tigers was very good.
Yeah. So you've had some outstanding broadcasters. Boston's had a lot of them. Kirk Gowdy started up there with the Red Sox. Dick Stockton was up there with the Red Sox for many years with Hawk Harrelson.
I like Don Orsillo.
Don Orsillo, yeah. Don's now with the San Diego Padres.
And
John Miller, if you more of a contemporary now guy. John, of course, did the Orioles and does the San Francisco Giants now.
And of course, Orsillo was with the late Jerry Remy.
Yeah, yeah. Don's a very good guy and doing a really good job down in San Diego for the Padres. So yeah, there's a lot of good announcers all over the place, and both in college and in pros. So yeah, and always good to share stories about good announcers. They're all fun. So there's that. All right, gang. Tomorrow there'll be more playoffs, and we're getting closer to the NHL playoffs. So at that point, I think. What do you think, Chris? In the next couple of days, we're going to be able to figure out who's going to be in and who's not.
Well, we know who's in the East. It's just a matter of where they're going to end up. Right.
It's now seeding. They're seeding now.
Yeah, in the West, we'll probably be able to figure it out. I would probably say early next week because you never, depending on how things pan out with some of these teams, because you've got so many teams that are clustered up in there where, Edmonton has 94, Nashville has 93, and the Kings have 92, the Stars have 91, and then you've got Vegas and Vancouver both have 87. So you got a lot of teams battling for just those couple of spots. And
it's tough for a team like Vancouver to jump over three teams in front of them.
Yeah, especially when one of the tiebreakers is regulation wins, and in that case they're behind, I think, everybody except Dallas.
Yeah, crazy. All right, boys and girls, it's been fun, but we got to go. Have a wonderful day. 2:00 tomorrow. Join us. We'll be here. We're gonna have some fun tomorrow with the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, and who knows what else. You'll find out about
professional backgammon.
Right. Could be finding out that, that we weren't right on the poutine. Maybe it wasn't Edmonton that had the best poutine. But you get quality information from us every day. So by all means, return and pay attention to the rest of our brothers and sisters on the Max Wagers Network. It's always a lot of fun. Okay, gang. Until tomorrow, for Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying have a great day and enjoy yourself. We will see you tomorrow.